right, Chris, welcome to the Tech 45 podcast. Good to have you on as always. I think we first met probably back in 2012 or 2013.
Yeah.
I think we first met each other in Afghanistan, which is kind of a wild place to meet sometimes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, 2013, I think it was February or March, because I got in the country and I spent 1 month with the then Colonel Admiral on his PSD, and then came down and met you guys. So it was probably about March, I think, of 2013 when I got to the unit down in Afghanistan.
Cool.
Wild.
Yeah, and
That long
for
ago,
those that,
man.
yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago. I mean, for those that don't know us, like Chris and I were both infantry officers in the Army. And so we were at a small combat outpost in southern Afghanistan, and that's where we met. We were fellow platoon leaders together, doing army stuff in Afghanistan, and then back when we came back to Fort Bliss, then we also served together back stateside a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, we did. Because you were still in the unit. Because I think you moved on, and we moved to different companies, and then you ended up getting out, and I stayed. So I think we had like about 2 years there. We were either PLs or XOs together in different companies.
Yeah, and what a wild time that was. Here's a little picture of our cop for old time's sake.
LPK,
Yeah, this is
dude.
it.
I tell you what, I still go on
A
Google
walk
every
down
once in
memory
a
lane.
while, and I look for that area just to see what the Google images are showing now.
So funny.
And there's nothing
Yeah.
there. You can see like the perimeter, but there's nothing there anymore from the Google
Yep.
images at least. Yeah,
Oh
man, that was a
well.
wild deployment. I lost four strikers, actually five, I think. Didn't lose any guys, a lot of TBI, but and then the other stuff with the rest of the units. But that was trial by fire for a young lieutenant straight out of infantry school. I'll tell you that.
It was trial by fire indeed. It was like, hey, here's a few months of training at Fort Benning, your infantry officer basic leaders course or whatever it's called. And then maybe a short train up if you're lucky before you deploy, and then um, they throw you into the mix. Like all of a sudden you have to figure out how to maneuver troops in combat, and you're relatively young, sometimes younger than some of the non-commissioned officers that are on your team.
Yeah, man, I remember like it was infantry school's all light, as in no vehicles, no nothing. Show up to Afghanistan. Here's your platoon. Oh, here are these vehicles, and they're your life. I was like, what? I was like, they didn't teach me any of this. But no, it was good, man. We had good people there. We had a lot of good dudes. Commander, first sergeant were good, and as you know, I had good squad leaders, so I relied on them. They coached, teached, and mentored my ass all the way through that deployment. That's for sure, because I had no clue what I was doing.
Had to, man. Yeah, that was the only way forward for sure.
Yeah, man. But yeah, dude, that's where we met. I remember I was there for about 2 weeks, had no clue what was going on, and we lived in those Alaskan tents, and everybody built that back porch. And like the first time I actually got to know you, I remember you came up, you're like, "Hey man, you good? Like any questions? Like how you doing?" I was like, "Oh shit," because it's as a new guy there, dude, it's just a million different things, and like you have no clue what you're doing. You're just like, "You sure? You good? Got any questions?" I was like, "All right, this is a good dude right
I
here. I'm
you
gonna
know
lean on him a little bit,
I can't believe you took it. Can't believe you took advice from this guy. So many either found they either scavenged this, or this was in a care package that someone sent us. They sent us a whole pack of mustachios, and so
Yeah,
we had all different flavors of mustaches, all different shapes and sizes. I went with Tom Selleck, right?
yeah.
But it's funny. I don't know why you took advice from this guy.
I tell you what, man. Like after all my time, I'm coming up on what 18 years military service. That environment of a small base with just a company, what we had 150 guys there, maybe 60 with contractors. Like I'd take
Yeah.
that environment any day, man. We had some fun when we weren't on mission or whatever, and the dudes were just blowing off steam. But like when they brought the little kiddie pools out, I don't remember if you
Oh,
remember
so
that.
fun.
These little kiddie pools. You got all these infantry dudes in Afghanistan and like little boxers and like those dudes found a way to have fun, dude, and like you have no other choice but to like get along or go along, So like you just join in on the fun. I miss that stuff.
Yeah, that's the only way.
Yeah.
That's the only way for sure. But yeah, I think, looking back on all the people you meet, it is interesting for sure.
Oh yeah, man. Like I still like one thing I'm trying to get better because like me and you have talked about this. I'm about to transition out of my military career, right? And what I've noticed myself doing now is reaching back out to a lot more of those guys from that time period. Like I said, I had great squad leaders, Jay, Garcia, Cox, and Bear, and like I've reached out to them more recently than I probably ever have. And like guys like you, like we've always kept in contact, but I think we've been talking a lot more recently, and like just reaching out to those guys because, like you said, the people that impact you and stuff. And like as I'm starting to transition this way out, it's like, man, they had a huge impact on me. Like I want to know where they're at. I want to know how they're doing, and like I guess identifying that's a sense of community, and I'm about to walk away from it, but like I still have to keep those connections there. You know what I mean? So I think like those experiences definitely are something that's like really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like the bonds you make throughout your military career, whether or not, you serve for 4 years, 8 years, 30 years, everyone I talk to like tends to, make some of their best like lifelong friendships while they're serving.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought a lot about it, like why those bonds are so tight as I'm trying to like look for a new community going forward as I get out of the military. And like it's like those bonds are built over just shitty times, and those are really
Yeah,
hard to
they are.
replicate outside the military environment. So like there's definitely something special. I think a lot of people maybe like EMS or like, first responders may have experienced, but
Maybe.
not to the extent that we do, especially being away from the home so much. So yeah, that's a hard, I think, void to fill for guys that have transition out, is how do they keep bonds or friendships like that going and like keep on building it as they move, because it is such a unique community, compared to what you'll get or what I'm at least realizing in the civilian world, I guess.
Yeah, agreed. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else is new? I mean, now that you have a microphone and a somewhat public audience, you have the ability. This is such a cool thing. I mean, some people I talk to feel kind of nervous that people can just grab, you know, a microphone and just have like a conversation about whatever they want. But I see it as like kind of like a really unique, open expression of our First Amendment right, where you can just kind of now everyone can broadcast stuff. Like
Yeah.
literally, if we wanted to, I know we didn't do it this time around. We could do it in the future, but you can live stream to this platform. So like you could
Hmm.
do a live segment, and I did one once with Trevino. We did a live one, so blasted on Instagram.
Hmm.
And so we had Metzger was like signing in.
That's
And
good.
he was commenting and giving us crap, and we had a whole bunch of guys that were signing in, and they didn't watch the whole thing. It was a long episode, but they would come in bits and pieces of it and ask questions, and we would respond to the comments. It was cool. Like I think yeah, the comments would be displayed here for live streamers, and so we could like we it was like interactive. It was kind of funny. Like we had people that are watching us live, and like hypothetically we could broadcast to millions of people if we had that kind of audience.
Dude, it's wild, man. The amount of like you just saying that brings me back to like I've been trying to listen a lot and learn a lot about my son's generation, right?
Hmm.
And what you just said right there is exactly what their experience is of having social interaction without having physical interaction. And it's a very wild concept if you ask me. Like this right here, like awesome way to communicate, but we're also, late 30s men, right? Like we've had a whole lifehood to have build friendships and relationships as like, physically in front of each other. And my son, majority of the time, he's happy. He can talk to all of his friends, but like they don't need to be together. It's a very different way of growing up compared to what I'm used to. If you pick up the phone, are you home? All right, I'm coming to your house.
Yep,
And then you played video
coming over,
games. Then
baby.
you did this. It's like, man, I
Yeah,
wonder how different they'll be in their 20s and 30s because they weren't forced to have the physical interaction. because they still can have the
Yeah,
social
I agree.
interaction without it. So no, but it's cool the way the information. I mean, imagine if we had any of this in our first deployment, which was only what 13 we were deployed, and we barely could call home on Skype or whatever. Like now, like those guys thankfully have no issues. Hopefully, most of them with having any communication with their families.
Probably not. Yeah.
So
Have you seen, speaking of satellite internet, have you seen like the Starlink constellations as they're flying over?
yeah, so actually, so I talked to you about this. My unit right now is the SFAB in the Army, and I've done time recently. I did time down in Colombia, and the infrastructure at Colombia, internet could be good, but their military bases are not up to the standard of US. So, and it's mainly the power grid. I wouldn't say the internet's an issue. It's the power grid and everything that keeps that going. And we actually were looking at getting them to procure the Starlink contract because the best source of internet down there was Starlink. So we were trying to get the Army to invest in that. I think they're looking at it now. I think they have some proposals going on. But we were just trying to get them off the shelf purchase just so we had, constant connectivity no matter what, because I can run it off a little 2K generator, backpack generator that we have. So whenever power goes out. And then when we did our pre-mobilization training in Indiana, we were out doing night live fires one night. I think it was like 30 of them or maybe 36. We were trying to count them, but they were just whizzing by. It was crazy. It was so cool.
Yeah, and for those that are not aware, there's Starlink is part of SpaceX, which is a very successful aerospace company that launches payloads into space. They do the actual rocket launch systems, and they also do a large constellation of satellites. I think it's up to like 4,000 satellites now, and it provides high-speed satellite connectivity where you can actually have good enough video streaming abilities through satellite connectivity, which is unheard of. And it's because the constellation is so large and vast, and the communication protocols are very, very fast.
Yeah, we had and like he's not even talking like U.S. or North America, but we had guys purchase them by themselves just so they could do school or whatever, or that was going to be their home internet. So you can pick your region. Thing worked great, and then you can go in, call in, pick your region of the world or the country you're going to, realign your satellites. So um, I'm a big boat guy, and like all the new boats, that's something that's coming. When you get to the higher end stuff, that's all like Starlink is a standard like option in those boats now too. So um, it's definitely taken
Yeah,
over for the more
airplanes too.
austere, yeah, airplanes big time, yeah, or the campers that come with it now for people that are off or go camping or whatnot.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I was way off. My knowledge is outdated. There's actually almost 8,000 Starlink satellites in orbit, with plans to get up to 42,000 in the future total.
Instant, man, instant information.
But
It's
yeah, that
insane.
photo that I showed you guys, for those that are watching on video, that that is if you have like relatively low light pollution, that is the picture of a Starlink constellation that's flying by. And the first time I saw it, I was kind of freaked out. I was at like my buddy's like rural house in North Carolina, and we saw it like kind of streak by like this, and I was like, "Oh crap!" And what is that? And we looked it up, and it was actually a Starlink constellation that was flying by. Kind of crazy.
Oh yeah, man, it's nuts. I mean, I think that's definitely the way the DoD is going because no matter what we have for anything satellite, it can't compete. It's just how do they encrypt it? How do they do that? Which I'm sure they know how, but it just our systems, at least the legacy systems, cannot compete with any of the new technology that's out there right now when it comes to transfer or information or data.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was a interview recently with the Ukrainian like minister of all things unmanned systems. He's like their unmanned systems lead general or admiral equivalent, and he was saying that like the only reason they've been able to compete in this war is because of Starlink.
Yeah,
They use that as the primary communication protocol and all their, like bigger USVs and UAVs or whatever UGVs. it's like and like all the UAS platforms too. They all have either a 5G card or satellite connectivity. They
Hmm.
say that's the only way they've been able to control their unmanned assets is with Starlink. It's a huge advantage over their uh, their enemy for
Yeah,
sure.
I'll
Their
take
enemy
you.
doesn't have anything equivalent.
Yeah, I'll take it one further. I've seen entire countries run their military off WhatsApp and Signal.
Oh wow.
Like, and they have encryption. They have all these things that they can utilize, but that cell phone is the primary method of getting information to soldiers for missions, for training, for whatever. And it really opened my eyes of like my example of this. I was in Task Force 128 on Fort Benning, and Course 375, the Ranger Regiment, 3rd Battalion's right next door. So we get a lot of guys that would come from Ranger Regiment to 128 so they can get their force com time and then go right back to regiment. They didn't have to PCS, they didn't have to do anything, which is great because you get a lot of like top tier, high quality guys. You learn a lot. You see a little different side. They learn a little bit about regular army and hate themselves because they're like, this is ridiculous. I want to go back to the special forces side. Um, but I remember when Korea was starting to get hot with Trump's first term. A couple of the guys I knew came back over. They needed to get something that they left, or we were helping them with something. I can't remember. But I noticed they came in no digital watches, just an old analog watch, and their kit was not set up for radio. I was like, what the hell? They're like, we're going old school. He's like, we're literally training off time hacks right now. This is the time, this is the place, you have to be here. There's no way I can contact you. If you're not there, like everything was synchronized. That's where they're going. And like, I think that's what really scares me about the future of warfare, especially drones, is I just don't know how you can defeat that. Well, why we still have communication means up. We're going to have to degrade something. And I'm like, are we prepared to go back to a fight that is completely commander's intent and power leaders? Because we cannot check on them once we let them cross that line. Like, they have to know the plan and they're going because we might be firing artillery in support of them and they need to be there at this time and there's no coordination. You might get some air assets that can help coordinate at a higher level, but um, that's what worries me because the drone warfare is getting pretty scary out there. I just don't know how you defeat it in masses without taking out our capability.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some solutions being thrown out there, whether it be, for lack of a better word, some sort of electromagnetic pulse or
Mm-hmm.
some sort of radio defeat or kinetic defeat solution. But I have not seen anything that's compelling to where you have the capability to take out, hundreds or even thousands of unmanned aerial vehicles effectively. So,
Yeah, and I think it's a different mindset. I I've had the opportunity to like travel a lot with the military, just not in a combat role, in like this advisor role, and see other countries. And I think we, as this country, see warfare completely different than the rest of the world. And well, I'd say probably 80% of the world. It like if you look at the Ukraine and Russian war, man, it is there's no mercy in there. There's no fighting by the Geneva Convention. They're like, you know what I mean? Like it's a very different, and we are very, I don't want to say isolated, but America's been coddled for a while to understand what a large scale war actually means, I think. And then you start throwing drone warfare in there, and I think that's the scariest fact of all.
yeah, I mean, these both on both the Israel front and the Ukraine Russia front. I know in Russia there's been estimates of these flying towards Ukraine in the numbers of like 5 to 700 per day.
Mm-hmm.
So these things are constantly flying in the air looking for a
Yeah,
target.
you've seen the video, the
That's the
X
Shahed.
videos of their drone manufacturing. It's just a house, and they got like 10 guys in there, and there's 1,000 models, and they're just throwing pieces together. They're probably pumping
Hmm.
a couple hundred drones out a day for operation
Yeah,
because they're made
and
so cheaply and so easily. It's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a lawnmower engine.
Yeah, and I guess like you just throw a shape charge on there, and that thing is as deadly as an IED from Iraq, as everybody would know. Iraq or Afghanistan, the IED. That's the new. This is the new IED as a drone with a shape charge. And I
Yeah,
I know for a fact it's just not in Ukraine right now. I know in South America, like I said, spent a lot of time in Colombia, and it's all open source. You can check their pages, but they're starting to take a lot of casualties against the FARC, DLN from drone warfare, and we know they're watching it. So the cartels, international crime organizations, they are picking up. I mean, Ukraine is the testing ground right now for drones, and everything coming out of Ukraine is being studied, analyzed, and going to organizations or actors that are want to employ it. I think because they're getting pretty good down in there in Colombia. I've noticed the trend that's been going up from all the stuff they've been posting of them actually getting to be effective of hitting Colombian soldiers. It's not deterring them from hitting a lab or going to an area. So it's global. It's just not in that region. It just hasn't been used to scale like it has been in Ukraine right now.
I agree. I think unfortunately that's been a common theme throughout history where like once a weapon of war, quote unquote, is mass produced and able to be transferred to civilian hands like fairly easily, that creates like a big problem internationally, especially when you have terrorist organizations or other evildoers that now have another weapon that they can use, and they can just basically download the flight software off GitHub for free. It's open source software, and they can upload
Or just have
coordinates, and
AI make
that's
you
it.
one. Because that's the scariest part. You don't
Yeah,
need a code anymore. You find the right AI bot or model, and it'll code for you. That's what's insane.
that's true.
So all you need is the resources, a little bit of money, and you find the right AI. You're going to get the program, a little, R&D of figuring it out yourself. That's the scary part. Because
Yeah, I agree.
the one thing we are not good at and never have been is in fighting an insurgency. And drone warfare is like the perfect weapon for one of those, or guerrilla warfare. It's very very hard to win those wars.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, not many people have been successful in that in general. If you look at like the history of humans, yeah, not many people have been successful in that arena.
No.
But yeah, here's a little snapshot of what these things can do. Basically, there's an open source repository of different like flight control software, and this is not just for UAVs. This is for UGVs, USVs, and you could. I don't think they probably have some software for underwater vessels too, which is kind of scary to think about. You can program your own subs, and so this is their website is called ArduPilot. So it's basically like a open source repository that you can download today. One of the more popular applications is for UAVs, both for civilian recreational use, but also like this is what they're using on the drones that they attacked that Russian airfield with. They used ArduPilot,
Oh, that was
so they were
that
using open
software?
source
Yeah,
software.
I remember you sent
Yeah,
me
yeah,
that link. That was insane.
very user friendly, as you can see. I mean, you're basically plotting this on
Yeah, it looks
a map.
just like I had the DJI, the Phantom 4. I mean, a little different, but same kind of setup. It's pretty user friendly in the interface and how to get this thing up in the air.
Disarmed, and then it's funny enough. The mechanism of them dropping ordnance is a lot of these drones come with like secondary inputs, so you can drop like it's like quote unquote a wedding ring dropper.
Oh, you talking they can get it down to like a 10-digit grid now for dropping?
I wouldn't say they even need to. So like you can just look on this like on Amazon. Like this is just something that you can buy off the shelf. Kind of scary. I found it in like 2 minutes, and so it's a wedding ring or a remote dispenser, so you can airdrop stuff, and
Oh,
it's
I
meant to
got you.
be plugged into a drone.
Oh, it's just pre-made. Yeah, this is what we're talking about. Like you just 3D print something, and you can get this in masses right here, and it's very simple. What, probably one
Yeah.
moving part in it, so it's not probably
Yeah.
complicated to get in there.
Yep. And so like it's built for one of DJI's most popular drones.
Yeah, that's the little
But there's
one.
tons of stuff like this. I mean, that you can program. It's So
Yeah, I heard it on, I don't remember what I was listening to, but someone was saying the future is going to be drones are going to be outlawed and like probably have more restrictions than we have on firearms. That's where I think it will eventually get to because they can't control them. You can't sense every one of them without putting this a massive network of arrays out there because they're so small. You know, they can get them down to like this big now with a 4K camera with night vision and thermals and everything. So it's like, how are you going to detect that at a national level at least?
yeah,
You know, national level, you probably have some sensor for local, but not to build a
yeah,
national
true.
network. You know, so I think it's coming. I don't know when, but I
I
think
think you're
there's
right.
going to
Yeah,
be some kind of ban or heavy restriction that you need to be like some kind of certified pilot to even buy a drone, let alone operate one. At least in the U.S. Yeah.
that's definitely the direction it's heading in the U.S. You know, the FAA is starting to restrict, where you can and cannot fly a drone and who can fly certain weight classes of drones. You need a license. The drone has to have an identifier, so it has to
Yeah.
broadcast a unique identifier to that drone, which is then attached to you if you're the owner, if you have it registered. So like there are more restrictions happening. They're just like they can't write the regulations fast enough to keep up with the proliferation of
Yeah,
drones.
that's. I think they're gonna get scared and just say, "All right, that's done." Unless you're the government or a police agency or local government, you ain't touching a drone. Because that's probably the scariest days when they get used in the U.S.
I know. Yeah, they are, between DHS and various agencies, like they are starting to invest more in counter UAS platforms
Hmm.
to protect, critical infrastructure, etc. Public spaces, stadiums, that kind of stuff. Like, so there is investments being made in that arena, but and to my knowledge, unless there's some drone attacks that have likely, been thwarted before they actually were carried out, I think we've been pretty lucky. We haven't had anything like very
No,
disastrous.
no, I just don't think the procurement process can keep up with the advancement in technology, and that's why we're gonna suffer in this and not win it. There's too much. It's just, I mean, it's like phones. Every 6 months there's a new one. I guarantee you in Ukraine right now, every month there's a new model that's even better going on. Because, I mean, they're just pumping them out. They're testing them every day, hundreds of them every day. They're refining it. So at least monthly, they're coming out with some new version, something that's cheaper, something that's this. So I just don't know how you keep up with
Yeah,
it and have a government give you a contract and actually employ it into a field where it can be used because I think by the time it gets to the operator, you're probably a year and a half or 2 years old in technology, or oh, we got to do an upgrade, we got to do a software upgrade, we got to do this kind of upgrade. Then the thing's worthless, which I think is the majority of the U.S. military equipment right now because of these procurement processes. I mean, we do more updates, version updates, and software updates. And then by the time we get 6 or 7 in, they're like, well, we probably should have replaced these 3 years ago because we had this model X for this many years. It just hasn't gone out there yet. So I did that with the current model, or at least what I've seen in the military. I have no idea how they can move fast enough to keep up with the drone threat. I don't see it in that
yeah,
in the acquisitions process and how they write the bills and how they write contracts.
yeah. It's going to be very difficult. I think it's going to be a Herculean effort. But yeah, the military, it's already stressful enough for, people that are serving like in an infantry role or serving and deploying in different places around the world away from their family. Like, I'm sure you've seen it. I mean, you definitely see that it causes stress on soldiers, causes stress on their families that are home. Um, I think it's a dual-edged sword. I mean, it's good that these soldiers will have a mechanism to communicate more back home. That's definitely a good thing. Um, but at what point do you have to, understand like your soldiers are going to be going through some like emotional hardships because like they're deployed back and forth?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I think that's an interesting one because everybody, because you talk like the information, right? For me, I can tell you at some points I probably didn't need to be communicating with home on a deployment, right? There's times when you need that, and not having the means or the availability is probably helpful. But then there's definitely times where you need that communication. So, and especially for young soldiers, I saw that a lot. Like a very young kid just got into the military. like probably sometimes wasn't good talking to home, and sometimes was good. And it's very interesting how to see how everybody dealt with that differently. I don't know if you saw that as a PL, like dude's home
Yeah,
life is
I did.
completely just messing with his head right now. He doesn't need to be talking to home as much. Or, the guy that's like, hey, man, he hasn't called home in a couple of days or a week. Why is he not talking to his family? And really trying to like figure those out. So I get a double edged
Go
sword,
both
like you
ways.
said. And it's just because of the environment we're in. I think if we would have just been like oil rig guys, sit on an oil rig for a month at a time, not seeing your family, like it's different. But, our deployment, what did we lose? Six? We lost the recon guys and we lost Stokely.
Yeah,
Right. So we lost six guys on that. A lot of people knew them, right? I lost another guy. So like those are very different ways to look at it. And the only thing I've learned about soldiers is they don't make one that's the same. Every one of them's different. You communicate with everyone differently. Uh, that's the one thing I learned. They don't make a model. There's no two guys that are the same. You always gotta be looking for certain ways to get through to them or talk to them.
that's right. That's right. I mean, what what advice would you give soldiers? I mean, you have a son, and obviously you've been away from him through different deployments and stuff, and go through the hardships of that. Like, what's helped you kind of make sure that you keep your family closely integrated with your life while still serving as a leader in the military?
I actually was thinking about this today for some reason. I don't even know why. And I go back to Colonel Admiral because we both served under him. And I remember this discussion we had, because like you said, I'm a single dad, and when I had my son, he was born when we were on deployment. Um, I wasn't with his mother, so and I remember the first time he sat down to like counsel me, colonel to lieutenant, senior raider to raider, and he's like, "Well, tell me about your home life." And I was like, "Well, sir, told him a story." He's like, "All right." He's like, "This is what I'm going to tell you. You're going to have the army. You're going to have your family." He's like, "A lot of times the army's going to come here, or the army's going to come here and take all this time, and your family feels like it gets nothing." He's like, "You need to be aware of that, and you need to push that back up here." He's like, "Very rarely will they ever go like this." He's like, "You need to be constantly balancing this to keep it healthy." He's like, "One can't win more than the other." Um, I think that is good advice for any soldier, right? Because it doesn't matter if you have a wife and kid, you have mom and dad, you have a brother, you have close friends you care about. Those are your family, right? Especially when you're going through shitty times in the army. But what I would add to that is like yourself. So you have three: you have your family, you have the army, and you have yourself. And what I've learned is you can do a lot for these two, but if you don't take the time to like stop and like, hey, am I doing good? Am I overloading myself? Am I putting too much? Am I expecting too much out of myself? Like, because I did that a lot. I did that a lot, especially in the beginning. Um, and like once I realized, like, hey, I need to take care of me because I can't take care of my family and I can't do my job if I'm not right, whether physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever. Like, I think that was the one that I was missing for a while. I focused on army, family, just doing this. And like somewhere in the middle, you kind of just get lost in it, I feel like. Or you just, we're soldiers. I'm going to put my head down, put 70 pounds on my rucksack, and I'm going to go from this objective to this objective. I'm not going to complain because no one cares. Because that's, I mean, that's what you're taught in infantry school. Like, hey, we're going to this objective. Like, we're going to put this heavy weight off. We're going to take a little rest and we're going to go hit this thing. So like it's a mentality of I'll put my head through a wall. I can do that. So, and I think probably a lot of young guys do that, especially if you're excited to be an infantry officer or just excited to be any kind of officer. You finally get soldiers. You just want to do the right thing. It's what you've been training for. So you kind of can get lost in it, I think.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's good advice. That's you have to make sure that you constantly battle, like, you got to balance your military life with your family life, and those are going to be constantly teetering one way or the other, depending on the op tempo, whether or not you're leading up to a deployment or not, and then whether or not you're coming back from a deployment and the unit's like deliberately taking leave and telling people to utilize the downtime to reconnect with family, and so it can definitely swing both ways. But
Oh yeah, and like I think the looking at the family side, like being a military spouse, I don't know who wants to sign up for that, man. Like I really don't. Like I mean, power to them, but it is not an easy lifestyle. I mean, really no predictability. And either maybe you live on post and it's good, but like we might say we try to take care of time for soldiers, but like we do it to ourselves. We're always just moving stuff around. Dude's coming home late. Dude's sitting at the office just because like they have to wait for 2 or 3 hours when they live 2 houses down. Like knowing they're going to the field next month for a whole month. It's like, can we buy a little more time back? Um, but it's definitely I've seen the strain. Like the one thing the army never prepared me for, dude, was to be a counselor, to be a financial manager, to be a marriage counselor, and to be like a groomer of adults. I don't know how to say it, but dude, the soldiers like as a company commander, I spent more time talking to guys about their life, their family, their finances than I did giving commands or planning training. You know what I mean? Like just because everybody has something going on, but they didn't teach me that. I wasn't a certified guidance counselor, and here I am sitting here talking about this guy's marriage and how he needs to take care of his wife because this is what the police are saying, or this is what his actual legal guidance counselor is, and they're like, "Oh, you need to be a part of this." I'm like, "I'm not certified. I have a political science degree." Like, they're like, "No, you're the company commander. You have to sign off on this." I'm like, why am I signing off on this guy's marriage counseling thing over here? But that's what I learned. And I think for me, it's been beneficial to listen to that and go through it with soldiers because I kind of got to be that, I wouldn't say voice of reason, but the third person. Like, I care about you to make sure you do your job well and you take care of your family, but like, I'm not invested in your relationship, man. Like, so I need to worry about taking care of you. So I'm going to give you kind of an opinion that might not be perfect. There was a few guys I was like, hey, man, like, I'm not perfect at this, but like this is not healthy. Like I don't understand how you can do this. Like you guys probably need to end this. Like either you're both gonna end up in jail or something, Like and I had to have those discussions. That I'm like I don't know why I'm having them, but like I do care about the soldier, but like I just wasn't ready for that. That was the one thing I was not ready to be as a military officer is that kind of mentor guidance counselor role. But it's probably been the most rewarding out of all of it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I mean, you inherently have to get more involved in their personal life because in the army, like their personal life bleeds over into their professional life in a huge way. So if something's going on with them at home, it can affect you directly, and it affects the unit too, especially when you're
Mm-hmm.
doing extended operations where you're working for 9 months at a time on deployment. You're working every day, so like these guys have to be at a maintaining a level of mental fitness, which is tough. If like if your family life is falling apart at home, then like it's often tough to do. So I had several soldiers where like their personal life was falling apart at home and made it very difficult.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I've always said that, of what I've learned, you want to talk advice for young leader or whatever. I've learned that if a guy is bitching about his wife, he's bragging, right? Guy comes in, oh, wife wants me to do this weekend. Oh, the kids are doing this. He's bragging. He's not bitching because he's unhappy. That's just his way of saying, like, I got a wife, guys. I got a kid. They fucking fill up my time, but I like it, right? It's the guys that don't bitch is the ones that I've noticed we need to worry about. They're not coming in saying anything about their wife, good or bad. They're not saying anything about their kids. Those are the guys that I've noticed tend to have problems. And um, I think that's what young leaders need to look out for. Like everybody's different. You're always going to have the quiet guy, but like most guys want to brag about a family. Most guys want to brag about a girlfriend, right? It's their way. It's their way to be seen, and I think that's how they show pride. Especially a lot of military guys, Type A guys, like, hey man, I want you to know, or they're making me do this weekend, so I can't hang out or whatever. Um, so like as a young leader, especially you got some young kids, like the ones that don't say anything about family or girlfriends or boyfriends, like those are the ones I'd be like, all right, what's going on, right? Because that's just what I've seen. Um, but yeah, it's all about getting to know people, I guess, is the biggest thing. Not knowing military doctrine or tactics, but starting to understand people and how you communicate and how you get them to want to do what you need done, I guess.
Well said. Yeah, I think that's the key right there. I mean, yeah, and what other like is there any specific advice you'd give to that, if soldiers are either uh, somehow geographically separated from the other parent of their kid, or
Yeah, the single
if
dad
they're,
thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'll tell. We've had these discussions, Jack. So I have no problem sharing this. So I've really struggled with it, especially in the past. I struggled with it from the time my son was born until he was about 5 or 6 years old. Um, so wasn't with his mother. He was born. We were on the side of Highway One. Actually, we had that Dust One mission. I think 341 lost a guy. Um, so I had my Roshan phone. Got a text. She's in labor, right? So yeah, as he was being born, I was standing on the side of Highway One doing a checkpoint because I think we were out there 36 hours until they were able to identify the body. Um, so that was kind of how it started, and it wasn't good. And I'm not proud of it now that I really look back. Um, not proud at all because I fed into the not good as much as I would say she did, hit my son's mother. A lot of just could not see eye to eye. We were basically, every conversation turned into some kind of fight or argument. Of course, we're doing this different time zones, all this stuff, right? So to bring the story along, we decided not to try to work together as a relationship and try to figure out how to co-parent when he was about almost 2 years old. I think 1.5, 2 years old, we made that decision that it wouldn't work. Us being at least a relationship, but the journey to figure out how to be a co-parent, and I think this goes for the military. I think it can go for anybody in this world. The journey of a co-parent um, is realizing it doesn't. Nothing matters about you, and I lost that. Especially for those years when I got back from Afghanistan, I was in Texas. El Paso to Columbus, Georgia is not easy. It's pretty expensive. I had college, everything. So like I saw my kid maybe once or twice a year. And yeah, I was a Skype dad, 100%. But like when you have a little kid, like a 2-year-old kid, daddy's just a name that's on the TV. There's no physical connection, or emotional connection. Like mama walks in the room, that little dude's crawling, he's walking, right? He's going right there. I walk in the room, it's like, oh, hi, daddy, you know. But that was part of it. When you're a long distance dad and you can't see your kid, you still got to do that. Um, but what I learned at that time, dude, and I think we talked about this, is I was so selfish because I thought I was like, it should be about making me kind of feel good that I'm a father, right? That I should feel good that I'm a dad, right? So that was very selfish because what I learned is I got to earn it, right? And then my next one was entitlement. I felt like I was entitled to, well, he's my son, then I get a say, I get this, like I have rights too, like, but like, because I went back and forth. Well, you're not around. Like all this stuff kind of happened, and I was feeding into it because I was feeling this way, right? And then I had pride, man, and I was like, I'm an army officer, like I shouldn't be dealing with shit like this. This is beneath me, blah blah blah. So those three things really, really clouded my judgment back then, and just really kind of made me fight the entire like co-parenting journey in the beginning, because I wasn't willing to compromise. I wasn't willing to see that, oh, she's a single woman who was in nursing school that just had a baby, has no job, has no income, and is probably freaking terrified that she's about to raise a child by her own. Didn't see that at all. Or didn't at least put myself in that perspective to understand like she's probably losing her mind a little, right? Probably need to back off. I'm not dealing with a baby every day. You know what I mean? That's totally different. Um, and it really like it just built this resentment of I need to talk to you to get to my son, not that I want to talk to you to get to my son. So I mean, like those things right there just kind of fueled that fire of like I'm not going to see eye to eye. If you don't see it my way, then like it's not going to happen. And like, what did I get out of it? I got 4 or 5 years, or my son knew that daddy was a guy on Skype. And when I went to go hang out with him, oh, you're cool, but like you're going to be gone again. I wasn't able to maximize the time that I would get because I was a distance dad. That wasn't going to change. But every time I did see him, it was consumed by me bat or going at it with his mom instead of focusing on him. So I lost all that time in those things. And I think we talked about this, but what I didn't have was maturity and perspective, right? You're in the moment, you're doing what you think is right. And the only thing I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm in this to the end. I don't care what she does. I'll go get a lawyer. I'll go get this. Like, I'm not going anywhere, but it doesn't mean I have to have a civilized conversation or relationship with you. And dude, that sucked. And I look back now, and I was pretty upset when I kind of realized these things about myself. But I didn't know, man. I was scared shitless. you know, I was a young officer, just came back from combat. Trying to figure it out. Wanted a relationship with my son, had no clue how to do it, but knew I wasn't going to give up. Like, you got to give yourself a break, right? Um, but I'm telling you, man, once that it turned, and it really turned for me when I came back here to Georgia, and I think she realized I'm not going because I decided like, hey, once I get out, or once I have to leave Georgia, I'm getting out of the army. Like, I'm not leaving my kid because once you're a single dad and you feel like you don't have a bond with your child, no matter what age he is, once you build that bond, dude, you're hooked. You're hooked. You can't get rid of it. And I remember it took about, I'd say, a year when I first got back. I got back here in 2018. So it took about a full year for him and I to actually bond. I mean, when I first got back, dude, I'd pick him up, he'd cry for 15 minutes straight. He wasn't used to getting in the car with me. And I remember I'd sit there, I'd be like, he's not crying because of you. He's just not used to this. Don't be mad. He's not crying because of you. I'd say that stuff. And then 10, 15 minutes later, he'd look over, hey, daddy, what are we doing today? I'm like, you were just absolutely bawling. He was about 4 years old, absolutely bawling your eyes out. And now you're like excited to hang out with me and excited to do stuff. I'm like, dude, that's addictive. Going through and realizing like, one, don't be mad. He's a little kid. He doesn't know you. Like, you got to build this relationship. This is what you got to do. And then to see him happy and like, oh, this is great. I love going to daddy's house. You're like, hell yeah, man. This feels great. Um, so like that that first year was a struggle. Like, just trying to spend as much time as I could and be active duty. I'm going to work at 5:30 every morning. I'm getting home if I was lucky between 7 and 8, so I was a strictly weekend dad. Never got to bring my kid to school, never got to pick him up from school unless it was like first day, special occasions, right? But it was a Saturday, Sunday, Friday night if I got out early enough. I got to see my kid. But I came from nothing. I came from a few Skype calls a week, so like I'll sign up for that every day. Um, and then slowly the relationship with his mom started getting better, dude. Um, and I think for the two of us, we realized, hey, we're stuck with each other for the rest of our lives, like it or not. Like 18 years old or not, like if I go to his wedding, guess who's gonna be there? He has a kid, guess who's gonna be there? Like, right? And I think we both realized, hey, if we just focus on him and not us, like our shit, any kind of resentment, any kind of whatever, um, like this will be okay. And slowly over time it did. Like the arguments went from, are you getting him this weekend or this or that to, oh my God, I got off the phone. Wasn't a single argument. And we have a plan for this weekend. Like, not used to that, but it started going that way. And I think it helped that I was here. It's hard for, I think, a woman to look at a man that's not around their child and be like, you're providing. You might send child support, but are you actually providing? Um, but I also think I started changing too because I got a taste of what being a father was like. And once you start building that bond, it's like, do I want to argue with your mom? Do I want to spend time with you? All right, I'm going to start changing my opinion here a little bit and like, what do I care about? What don't I care about? If you want to say something and it might have set me off in the past, it ain't going to set me off anymore. Like, it's not worth it. I'd rather know I'm getting time with my son this weekend. And slowly, it just got to the point where we started operating like civilized adults. you know, we even went away from our custody agreement. It went from every other weekend and holidays to, hey, let's just figure it out. And if we can't figure it out, we'll go back to the custody agreement. We haven't talked about our custody agreement. I don't know how many years, Jack. Like
That's
it's
great.
a hey, where do you want to go, this or that. But like I tell you, what happened to get to where I'm at now is I definitely screwed myself in my personal life on that journey. Um, and I did that and I didn't realize it till recently, but it was like going through those, you saw those Texas years, man. It wasn't good. The screaming and yelling on the phone, all that stuff. Like the guys were around it. Like I'm not proud of any of that, but like that shit was an emotional scar for me, and I've realized that now. That it was something I was terrified of going back to. Like I love where I'm at with my son, my son's mother, and how we co-parent and how we work together. And like I was so terrified once I got to that point of going back to those Texas years of we can't even have a civil conversation. And I was always like, you know what? I'm gonna wear this as a badge of honor. Like all those years I fought all the way through this to get to where I'm at. Like I don't ever want to forget it. Like that feeling, like don't ever forget it, because if you forget it, you're gonna go back to that point. Like never forget it. But I think I like carried that around and it weighed me down, to tell you the truth. Like I think I tried to date a lot. Nothing ever really worked. I was always like dipping out of relationships within the first month. I never wanted to get close. Um, but like once I got back here and I got a relationship with my son, that was another thing. I think a lot of single guys will struggle with building a relationship if they don't have one with their child. Because I think for a guy, the only relationship you're supposed to have is the one with your child. If you can't have it with their mother, because hopefully that comes before, Um, so if you're looking for a relationship in your personal life, you don't have a good one with your child, I think you're always going to kind of sabotage it in a way. At least for me, I think that's kind of what I was doing, not knowing it. But it wasn't until I got that bond with my kid and like I realized like I don't need to carry those years with me anymore. There's no like wear it like a badge of honor stuff. It's a 100% I'm here now and I'm not going back to those years because I'm not that person anymore. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
not reacting, I'm not doing this, but like I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of single dads in the army, and I think if we have one thing in common, we struggle with fatherhood because we're always competing with something else, mainly in the military, and it's very hard as a single dad. Um, I mean, a single parent in general. I don't know how any of the women that I've worked with that have full-time custody of their child can do it in the military. It's honestly baffling. Because I don't think the military does anything for them, honestly. If it has, as a company commander, I didn't know about it, and I probably should have. So that's probably on me. But like, yeah, we're always competing, man, and like carrying that stuff around, it's tough. It's tough, and it's hard to really kind of understand that for yourself, I guess.
Yeah. No, agreed. And I think your story is a testament to all the if there's single fathers out there that are either newly single or they've been single for a while and they're starting to lose hope over whether or not they can develop a relationship with their kid. It's totally possible. You just have to, it's a time intensive task that you have to take on, and
Yeah.
you obviously had the ability to move or I guess remain geographically close to your kid, and that makes a huge difference too. But yeah, well, this is a good place to stop. Any final words of wisdom or anything before we upload this next segment?
No, man. No, I appreciate it. It was fun.
Cool. Yeah, stay on for a few moments and then I'll end the recording right now.